Nowadays, a huge number of people meet on the internet. The relationships are based on the assumption that people are who they say they are, and many times that turns out to be a bad assumption. Amy is a lonely girl whose high school life was as miserable and lonely as her home life. When she meets a guy online who lives on the opposite side of the country, she pins her hopes on meeting him and having a better life. She flies out to meet him after graduation, and when he turns out to be not quite her knight in shining armor, she is still determined to have the life she dreamed of. In her efforts to turn him into the ideal husband, she finds out things about herself that are surprising and maybe even shocking.
The thought of Zack made her blush. She loved everything about him, the way he expressed himself, the sweet texts during the day, the smile on his profile picture. No, she had never actually met him since he lived in California and she lived in Pennsylvania, but she was definitely falling in love with him. Amy had been fooled by guys online before. When she was 14, she met a guy who said he was her age and told her how beautiful she was. Well, her profile picture was particularly attractive. She was too shy to talk to boys at school, and she wasn't very popular. She didn't participate in any of the clubs or after-school sports. There was one girl who talked to her at school, so she had someone to eat lunch with, but most days she came home after school and spent her time either doing homework or talking to people online. The guy she met before said his name was Matt, and he told her all about how he was a football player, but the girls at his school were superficial, and he was looking for a girl with some substance. Well, she had substance all right, about 30 extra pounds of it. Amy never liked to spend a lot of time in front of the mirror. Her mousy brown hair hung straight, and she couldn't seem to get the hang of using a curling iron. Her brown eyes seemed so plain compared to the girls at school who had mastered the art of eyeliner and mascara. She had tried sucking in her cheeks to see how she would look if she were thinner, but nothing about her face seemed special to her. Matt filled her head with dreams about showing up at a school dance with their handsome football player. They would glide across the dance floor, and all the other girls would be green with envy. After a while, he started asking her to send him pictures of herself, without clothes, so he could really know her. She said she couldn't, so he sent her a picture of himself, in all of his naked glory. His face didn't show in the picture, but his enthusiasm for her did. She had been flushed with embarrassment. She had never even been kissed by a boy, let alone experienced sexually. She had felt kind of excited by it. Maybe that was what he meant. Anyway, after a while he said he wanted to hear her voice, so she gave him her cell phone number, and he called her and talked in low tones about things he wanted to do to her, all the while breathing hard and eventually exclaiming that he was coming. She had no one to talk to about these strange calls, nothing to relate to. Finally, he started pushing for them to meet. She was so nervous, especially since things had taken such a sexual turn. At first he wanted her to come to his house. He said his parents wouldn't be home, but when she expressed her reticence to do that, he suggested that they meet at a local mall. She thought that might be safe enough, so she agreed. She told her mother she was going to meet a girlfriend at the mall, and her mother was so relieved to see her doing something social that she didn't even question the change in her routine. She changed her clothes several times before finally deciding on jeans with a loose-fitting V-cut t-shirt that hid the rolls of fat that hung slightly over her jeans. He had requested that she wear a skirt and no panties, but she certainly wasn't going to do that. When she arrived at the mall, she went to the food court as agreed, ordering an orange Julius while she waited. She was looking around, hoping that she would recognize him. Just as she reached in her purse to grab her phone and check for a text message, he was suddenly seated beside her. He definitely looked like the photo online, but it apparently was taken a few years before. He appeared to be in his early 20s with a scruffy beard and reddish eyes. As he seated himself on the bench next to her, he simultaneously slid his hand under her butt. She inhaled in surprise as he reached around her, kissed her lips, and brushed his hand over her breast. "Hey, baby," he had slurred in her ear. "Look what I've got for you." She got up so fast she knocked over her drink, causing it to spill all over the place. She banged her leg into the bench, but she didn't feel a thing. All she wanted was to get away from him and that horrible swelling in his pants. She never looked back, just kept going until she was on the bus heading home.